oh, you guys distracting me.
You need a high ponytail, Oz.
Yeah, do it.
And this is the QUACKCAST. Hello, I'm Ozone Ocean, and with me is Pitface and Tanserine.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. This week we're talking about the idea of, like, fans, but not just fans. The idea of, like, becoming a fan, changing yourself just from enjoying something to actually liking it. Or no, it's just watching something or reading something or whatever to becoming like an actual fan of it. And when does that tipping point happen? So our own experiences of that, and also, the like if we've seen that happen to our own works, or how to make that happen with other people. Although that's a pretty tricky thing. I think it's a more personal thing that happens rather than something you can really, turn people into fans. So let's first talk about our featured comic. So here is the feature for this week. Hello, I'm Ozone Ocean, and my feature for the week was Conscripted. Darius was a soldier once. Once he tried to defend his home country, the kingdom of Roland. That was in another life. Those days are gone. Darius is something different now, something strange and terrifying. The lords Grigor and Stanimir are seemingly unstoppable in their quest to conquer and subjugate the entire world. No one can stand in their way. Using terrifying magic and overwhelming force of arms, their enemies topple one by one. Can no one halt their advance? Well, you'll have to read it and see. This is an exciting fantasy story with war, magic, knights, and more. It's well written, it's filled with drama, action, and pathos. The art is all digital, full color, and heavily stylized. Yeah, so this is a story with, like, cool, magical giants with, like, glowing magical armor on them, sort of looking like Tron with these glowing lines, with these illuminated runes all over them. They look really freaking cool, and, they're unstoppable kind of juggernauts. So, yeah, some pretty cool freaking stuff happening in this comic. Give it a read, and hope you like it. It's by Dragonsong 12. It's rated E, so for everyone. And yeah, Dragonsong 12 is a great creator who has done a whole lot of cool comics. So yeah, check Dragonsong out. Alright, hope you enjoy. And that was our featured comic. Okay, so next up we have our featured music. Wallace has given us a theme too. Conscripted! Surprise, surprise, which was the comic I just told you about in my feature. So yeah, this is a pretty cool coincidence. Not really a coincidence, it quite often happens. There's a lot of synergy that happens anyway. So this music... What is it like to have your body and soul transformed and subsumed into the body of a huge, magical, invincible giant encased in unbreakable metal armor? You have no free will of your own, no ability to communicate or even think. You are now just a serene slave in the form of a huge golem with awesome powers commanded by another. Gumballus's theme for Conscripted puts me in mind of poor Darius from Conscripted, who was forced into exactly this situation. The music is a serene, clean surface, a smooth forest pond, calm and clear, disturbed only by the nearest drops of thought rippling across it and then vanishing. Slowly these increase, the rings crossing and converging until serenity is no more. So have listened to Conscripted by Gunnar. That was our featured music. Thank you very much for that, Gunwallers. Again, it's a comic by Dragon Song 12, and it's rated E for everyone. Okay, so next up, we're talking about fans becoming a fan, the tipping point for fandom. Where does that point lie? Or where does it lie for you? Where has it lain for you? Okay, so we talked about this in our little Patreon video, which is there for subscribers, $5 and up, and sometimes just for all subscribers, like all for Patreons, it just depends. And we mentioned various things. I mentioned that I'd watched like 200 episodes of One Piece and still not become a fan of it. Although, say, on Star Wars... on Star Wars, I became a fan pretty much when I first saw the first film. So the conversion point was very, very like easy with Star Wars, but with something like One Piece, no. And I think there are various factors for that, because something like One Piece, it has like probably 900 episodes or something like this. So there's not much work invested in each one, you know? The story just goes on and on and on, and I don't know. With Star Wars, it was something very new. See, a lot of anime is very much the same. Even though, like, One Piece is rather unique in some ways, it's a shonen anime, and shonen anime all follow, like, these patterns that are always the same and they repeat, you know. Young man character likes to fight, gets stronger, wants to fight to get stronger, and he fights stronger opponents all the time and works out a way to beat them, and then he goes on, you know, to fight the next one. They beat him, and then he gets stronger and he beats them, and that happens frickin' constantly. And the story is like in between the fights, and sometimes it's interesting. Yes, it's Dragon Ball, and it's like it's a bazillion other ones. Shonen anime is, you know, Black Clover and Fairy Tail and 1,000 others. They're all very much the same in that. And sometimes They have really, really cool stories and characters that differentiate them from the others, and sometimes the formula takes over and that becomes the stronger thing, stronger than the characters, and it's not so fun. So in Dragon Ball is an example of a show where the characters and the situations are more interesting than the formula, pretty much. But One Piece for me was a show where the formula was the main thing and it wasn't so interesting. But yeah, Star Wars was something that was very new and there wasn't very much stuff like it. And there still isn't that much stuff like Star Wars that can compete on that level. There's a lot more now than there used to be in the late 70s, early 80s when that came out. But still, Star Wars still stands apart. So that's a reason why it's easy to become a fan of something like that than a shonen anime. So the barrier is a bit higher for that because it's much like all the other things that are also that. Not so special, you know? But yeah, so that's my theory there for that kind of stuff. What about you guys? What's something that you've, like, not become a fan of, but you still enjoy watching? Oh, Pete, you mentioned Star Wars. For you.
Yeah. I forgot for a second. I'm like, dude, really? But yeah, I forgot that I did mention it earlier. Yeah, it's quite apt in this case. Yeah, so like I was saying before, like I've never been like a Star Wars fan, and I'll kind of restate again what I said before, like I've never had distaste to it, but it's just was never something that hooked me. It was never something that I would seek out, you know. I've always been real slow to watch any of the other movies, and a few of them I still haven't watched yet. And I don't plan to anytime soon. It's not something that I'm curious about following, except for I did really like The Mandalorian, and I was following that, and following its releases. Again, I didn't get super crazy about it. It's just that when it was there, I enjoyed it, that it was on and that I could sit and watch it. But, I wasn't like sitting there and like looking at the release schedule for episodes and stuff like that and trying to remember when new ones were going to come out. So I was very passive in the way that I watched it. Yeah. Whereas if I take something else that I've been a big fan in before, well, you were talking about Dragon Ball before. I'm not the one who brought it up earlier, so I'm not obsessive, okay? People are going to assume that I brought it up earlier. I didn't. But back a long time ago, I was very much a huge mainly Dragon Ball Z fan. You know, like a lot of kids were my age and stuff. And that was like intense fandom. Like, you know, I needed to know all the release dates of the episodes that were coming out when it would come out on VHS, because I would catch up to everything on Toonami, and then it would keep cycling and cycling. And I was thirsty for those episodes, you know, so I would always buy the mangas, and I would try to get merch all the time, and I'd even back then like make little fan comics and stuff like that. So like that's complete other opposite end of the spectrum almost from like the passive fandom, if you could even call it fandom, that I've had with The Mandalorian. That's like both feet are in the pond, like you're in it, you know. You might need some help.
Jeez. Yeah, because there can be like degrees of fandom. Like might consider yourself privately a fan, but then you look at someone else and you think, oh god, now they are really a fan. You like bronies who, well, you know, collect all of My Little Pony toys and then get dressed up as ponies and, you know, make their own ponies.
I think there are also other names for that, depending on how they dress. But anyway, yeah, people that would invest so much time to cosplay as any character, including My Little Pony. I would say that these are, I think, more hardcore fans, I would say, if they just do cosplay for this.
That's pretty cool, yeah, because I do some cosplay, and mostly I do my own original characters because I just like dressing up more than anything else. And often, it's very rare that real other people's characters interest me enough that I want to dress up like them, except for like the World War II version of Captain America. I freaking love that outfit, and I became a fan of Captain America. I converted myself into a fan of Captain America when I saw that movie, that first Avenger movie. Before that, I'd only really seen Captain America, I've never really read the comics, I think. Maybe really old 1960s comics. I loved the old animated series that was maybe from the 60s or the 50s or something. I don't know, it was really ancient. I really liked that, but I wasn't really a fan. But when the movie came out, I loved that. And I cosplay that character as, like a version of being a fan, I think. So that's interesting,
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of the whole superhero genre, I find that I enjoy consuming products within this genre, movies or comics and stuff. But I don't think I'm a fan in the sense that if I never got to consume it again, I wouldn't miss it. I'm happy to watch it and I enjoy it and I have a lot of fun with it, but it doesn't go beyond to that area where I actually seek it out and I want to see it or read about it and stuff, which is weird because there are some, like for example, Doctor Strange, I really like, but again, I haven't really followed his stories. I think he has his own comic series or something like that. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, famously he has his own comic series.
Yeah, there you go.
That sounds kind of like what I was experiencing with WandaVision, because I also haven't really gotten into any comic cinematic universes at all, really. But I really liked WandaVision when it came out. And I think I liked it a little bit more than The Mandalorian. It's hard to compare the two because they're both great for their own things. But WandaVision, I think one thing might be that it was compact and bite-sized enough for me to consume it, get something out of it, and for it to stick with me. And I remember going into some comic shops and actually asking hey, if I want to find out more about the storyline of this character, how can I do that? Because Marvel, the comic universe of Marvel is also kind of winding, and it's kind of intimidating as a fan, as a new person who hasn't ever picked up any of their comics before, to kind of learn how to merge into that intersection. How do I start to read about this character? And there were some things I was going to pick up, but I never did. And I remember also, there's been a couple times where I've gone out of my way to recommend WandaVision to people, So to me, that's a level of fandom for myself. That's a little bit more than casual, but it still isn't something that I'm thinking about when I don't see it in front of me very often, So yeah, it's kind of hard to get into things these days, at least for me. I do really like that webcomic Heart of Gold. I mentioned this on the video, but I've been reading that a lot lately, and I'm all caught up. And I like to support the creators on Patreon, and yeah, it's something I kind of immerse myself in a little bit more. So as for that, I think, there's nothing right now I'm really obsessing over, which is kind of nice because I don't like obsessing over things, really. That takes a lot of energy, a lot of money, because then you want to buy all the shit, and like, for what? I'm a big Judas Priest fan, but again, it's tempered. I can control myself. So I think in the way I consume media, maybe I don't want to say become more mature, because that's pretty subjective, but for myself, like, I have become more controlled in the way I get into things than I used to, you know? But if that makes sense.
It's funny thinking how much you're a fan of something when you sort of think in terms of what would you do to watch it or to be part of that thing. Oh, Tans, what's your t-shirt?
It's a Sabaton t-shirt.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to go see them with Judas Priest. I'll give them your regard.
I know you did. Be there for me as well.
This symbol should be like a great big armored shoe, because that's what a Sabaton is. It's just too name to pick.
It does have a great big armored shoe.
Does it?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Well, yeah, I've like bought into a few things where I've, like crossed the line and become more of a fan, like Ghost in the Shell. Got a figurine of that and some like manga and like coasters and lunchbox and stuff like that, because I freaking love that. Really love, Ghost in the Shell, but I wouldn't like buy I would really love like the toys of the big 6-legged tank that's in the movie. That's freaking awesome. Always wanted that. And the Tachikomas and stuff, but they're so expensive that I'm not, that much dedicated a fan that I would want to spend like $80, $100, $200 on these bloody toys. That's a bridge too far for me. And I'm also not that much of a fan that I would go and see things that, like the Scarlett Johansson movie version and the newer Ghost in the Shell stuff it's crap, It's the later animations and they did a 3D animation. It's just, so I'm not that kind of fan that will like everything.
Yeah, I think that beyond an age, no person is a fan that likes absolutely everything within a fandom, or expresses fandom, like being a fan, by compulsively saying, yes to everything and clicking on everything and accepting everything and stuff. Like, for example, I have been, I suspect that at least to a significant degree, I will always be a Kenshin fan. And I used to have the like 2/3 of the entire manga series, which I think is superior to the anime. And unfortunately it got stolen, so I don't have it anymore. And it hurt. It hurt that they took this particular thing. Like, they took other manga books that I had as well. And I didn't like it because I had bought them because I liked the art and stuff in it. But the one thing that really hurt was that they took my freaking Kenshin manga books. And but I will not purchase, for example, the anime series or the OVAs. I will not. I have seen them, I have enjoyed them, but I will not give out money to actually buy those, for example. And I also don't like the entire anime series, because after episode 62 or 63, the rest of it, which goes up to, I think, episode 95 or 93 or something like that, is complete and utter. there is like, because at the time they were making the cartoon, um, the creator had not finished the Jinju arc, which is the third and best part. So they veered off and did whatever they thought would be an appropriate Kenshin story, and they have completely messed it up. There's also that. Being a fan doesn't mean that you will like or accept everything that is within the fandom.
Yeah, definitely. You become very he can even become very gatekeeping yourself about what is worthy of being a fan. Then you can say like, yeah, I'm a fan, but only the good stuff. All the rest is shit. And that's only what real fans like too. We only like the classic Doctor Who, all the new Who. Oh god, you're just idiots. You came late.
Well, you know what? For example, I wouldn't mind new Kenshin stories at all. Actually, I would really like to have them, but I would be majorly pissed off if they came in and they tried to completely warp the actual formula of the particular IP. Like, for example, Kenshin now kills.
Yeah.
No. Rage button immediately. Or
Kenshin in school,
for example,
as a little kid, and all the other characters he meets throughout the series are also little kids in school, even though he doesn't meet them until he's like an adult. They're all there.
Yeah. Well, I would give it a chance, but yeah, if it turned out like a Meiji period high school, it wouldn't be for me. Like, it would be probably for younger, for kids. So yeah, I wouldn't like that either. Or for example, if they swapped stuff within like the design, for example, they made Kenshin into a weakling idiot. Like, he is an idiot. He has idiot moments, but he's not stupid. And they wanted to just, for example, downplay him so that the one that is showcased is Kaoru because she's the girl, and they ruined this balance that they have between themselves and the need that they have for each other. Then yes, that would also piss me off as a fan, and I would probably be a man baby then. So yeah, fans are within a fandom for certain formulas that are there. Okay. So I guess fall out of the fandom if the formulas are broken, and that's what happened to me with Star Wars, for example. So.
Yeah, I mean, the Star Wars thing is interesting. It's the problem with it, with Star Wars, and even things like Doctor Who, is that, you know, I really don't mind much later versions of stuff, and even if, you know, the newer versions aren't my thing, it's fine. But, and, you know, I could even get into the newer stuff, maybe. The problem is when they do the retconning. So yeah,
actually, I have to say, especially for Star Wars, sorry, I'm cutting you off because I'm a nerd for that. I really was looking forward to a Passing the Torch story, to have a girl that was the new hope of the galaxy, like the new Jedi master in the making character, to be mentored and to take on the torch from Luke, who I would get to see in his more mature, more wise, Yoda level status. And I didn't get to see that. Instead, I saw something that was pathetic. And like, the point was not that you got new people coming into new characters coming into the story. The problem was that for some reason there seems to be a lack of confidence in introducing new characters. So in order to introduce the new characters, we have to tear down the old ones and replace them with the new characters somehow, which cannot happen.
Yeah.
It never does.
That's true.
So
that's true. But see, the retconning thing for me, that Star Wars, they do that a little bit. I mean, especially they did with the prequels. That's
when we started.
Really retcon things in weird, stupid, just idiotic ways. But say in say Doctor Who, I really couldn't get into that because Doctor Who stopped in like the late 80s, early 90s, I can't remember. I think it was the late 80s. And then it got reborn again in the 2000s. And they immediately retconned it in just weird ways. So instead of being like about, this alien who comes to Earth and wants to help people out because he just likes Earth and he likes being, helping humans out. Instead, it became, oh, I am the last Doctor. My whole race died, and I'm like so depressed, and I want to help humanity, and because you guys are the key to the time war. And oh my fucking, what sort of idiot thinks of stuff like that? The Time War and the Last Doctor. Oh my god, no! Just, you're already starting off with this idea that you have to raise the stakes for sci-fi, which is stupid. Because you keep on having to raise the stakes when you do that. But that completely like retconned the 30 years of this series that had been going on to do this new thing, and oh my god. So yeah, I hate that kind of stuff. Just no.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, the thing is that the whole thing with fans is that everyone is a fan of something for a specific reason. Not all fans are fans for the same reasons. Like I remember, for example, in the heyday of my fandom, which was when the internet was a baby, in the time of dinosaurs. And we used to have chat rooms where we did role play. And then there was this Star Wars cantina. Maybe some people will remember that if they ever were, the intergalactic nerd that I was. And there were, like, all of these people were raging fans, serious fans. But some people were fans for the tech that was in there, the ships and different ships, and the way that the planets were interconnected, and the different civilizations of the planets, and all the systems, which personally I couldn't care less. Others really liked how the Force and the lightsabers work, and they even built lightsabers on their own and stuff like that.
Wow.
They had personally crafted lightsabers, not bought, and things like this. Again, I really liked lightsabers, but not enough to actually make my own. I was in it for the space wizards, and I really liked the space wizards. That's all I like. But so, for example, people that are in it for the tech might still be fans, for example. Me, I am not a fan anymore because the space wizard thing has been corrupted, for example. And that didn't happen with the latest trilogy by Disney only. Like I think they delivered the killer blow, like the coup de grace, if you like. But the prequel trilogy did that. When you tried to explain the Force with the midichlorians and with the whole the power of the midichlorians, like, dude, it's space wizard. You don't need to explain space magic.
Yeah.
Stop, please.
Well, I'll say, like, I was more a fan of the technology, and I don't really like the way that's gone either, because the technology is, like, doesn't make sense anymore. You know, like the slow bombers in the second movie of the new sequels. Why would they have super slow bombing craft that had to slowly creep up and drop bombs on? It's a spaceship. You don't drop bombs onto spaceships. Why would you have dropping bombs in a place where there's no frickin' gravity? Like, even if you dropped them on a planet, they would take... it's just stupid. It didn't make any sense. Like, no idea about technology. None.
Horses on a spaceship also didn't make sense, so...
What? Horses on a spaceship?
In the third... I think it's in the third movie of the third trilogy, where they have, like, space horses galloping along on one of the motherships of the New Order. Like they are actually an attack with space horses against the space.
Oh god.
So yeah.
They should have just weaponized the boob aliens from the second movie as well, and just gone full. The bloody milking things that, oh my god, that was... Why aren't there memes? Like, you get full private... Like, people meme all this stuff about Star Wars. No one mentions the boob aliens. Like...
Yeah,
what
how common.
the hell was that about? Luke pole vaulting onto rocks and milking aliens. What?
Yeah. And it was green milk as well. Like, it looked horrible.
Why? That's...
Yeah, okay. That sort of thing turns you off as a fan.
Yeah, it was a big grumpy face when he was doing it too. Just, I can see why he had a grumpy face. Like, he's going, my god, this character made me, and I hated being this character. I hated being typecast for a while, and then I loved it, and now this is what you've reduced it to.
Yeah.
This...
And so, and the worst thing is that, and then we go to the gatekeeping thing, and who actually is a fan and who isn't. I have been following, nowadays, because of other stuff happening in Greece and everything, not as closely, but I have been following how the comic and Hollywood blockbuster movie industry has been going, especially in fandoms such as Star Wars, such as the Marvel Universe and comics and stuff. And we have this, at least it seems, please correct me if I'm wrong, that there are two factions of fans, and the one is the old school fandom that wants not to have their characters retconned into completely different characters, that just wear the skin of what they used to love, or that they act in ways that wouldn't normally act, like they are out of character, as we would say in fan fiction. And there is the other faction of newer fans and younger fans usually as well, who are all for it, and they very loudly advocate for it, and try to go in very hard with sort of a virtue signaling style. And what is happening is that the revenue for these fandoms is dropping. And that means, at least to me, that the fans that actually go to that level of selling out cash to buy stuff, to support the IP, to support the particular fandom, are the old school ones that would actually, want things to remain or evolve in a natural logical progression, whereas the newer ones don't seem to be supporting what they are advocating for in order like to consume. So there's also that. Are they like who are the fans between the two? Who are the real fans? Who are the like what is a fandom in the end? and how do you go about like who should you be pleasing?
I think the idea, the traditional idea is they want to please the ones who they want to invest to build a fandom, so you appeal to the younger people because they will like it more, and the parents will buy the toys for the younger ones, and so that way you capture more interest, because that will also capture some older people, but it's capturing the kids as well. The parents have the money to buy the toys for the kids.
Doesn't seem to be happening though.
All right. Well, that's a traditional idea behind it. But yeah, it's you're right in that a lot of the people that buy toys now, is like, especially at this point in time, are like one of the things people say is like, oh, people in their 40s and their 30s, like, oh, they're more infantilized because they still like toys and stuff like that. But I think that's a bullshit way of looking at it. That's the wrong way of looking at it. The thing is, like, back 40 years ago, adults didn't have toys and comics and all this stuff made of stuff they liked when they were kids, like that was really high quality. That didn't exist. This is new because we have the technology. We have like the internet where you can easily get the things you want, and you have all that, you have this access to this stuff, and you also have like these industries that are built around high quality production of this stuff. You have industries like, you have things like eBay, where it's like really easy to get this stuff, and it's like centered around supplying people with these things. So there's all this stuff. It's not like the people are infantilized. That's bullshit. People now are the same as they were 40 years ago. It doesn't matter if these people, like 40, 50, 60 years ago were going to war, going to World War II. They're still the same frickin' people. If someone was like a World War II soldier, he was transported to 2021 and, like shown the stuff he loved when he was a kid, and like in high quality versions, comics and toys and stuff, he'd be freaking buying that like a second. There's this infantilization thing is just the invention of people who don't really think very holistically about all the different kind of influences and factors and context. They decontextualize and are only thinking about the results and not the causes. But yeah, so the thing is, like, as adults, we have industries that are sort of centered around producing all these things and also selling it to us, and information and communication networks that are there for us to get it. And as adults, 40, 30-year-old people in their late 20s even, we have the money in order to get this stuff, and we want to get it for ourselves first.
Yeah.
Even when people... even when people do have kids, they say, oh, I'm getting this for my kids. It's for my kids. It's justifying spending the money because they want it for themselves. So it's something they introduce their children to so they can both enjoy it together and have it for themselves to enjoy. Anyway, go on, Tons.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I wanted to say is that also there are a lot of things that are now legitimately professional jobs that would be considered like teenage stuff or children's stuff. For example, you have pro gamers, and you have people that work in all the game, not only the gaming industry, but like the how do you say it? The collectible industry, professionally creating stuff that cannot be used by kids because it will be destroyed.
Yeah.
Within the day. It is made for adults to collect, and adults have always been collecting stuff since forever. It's as you said, it's just a matter of the focus and how culture evolves into finding art, and art is for adults. You don't expect kids to consume art. Kids consume like entertainment, but artistic stuff and the appreciation of art is something that is technically reserved for young adults in general. So when you have things that appeal to your artistic sense, when these things are for adults. And Star Wars, I think, I mean, I remember in general that it was really originally marketed to adults. Like, I don't think it was a kids movie ever, like the original one, or the ones that followed, especially the second one, which was very, very grim and dabbled into ideas that aren't considered kid friendly.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, I'll just butt in and say that,
Mhm.
you know, I've seen people like use this argument saying it's for kids, and he like had this idea of doing the marketing and making toys, like that was a real specific thing. But then you look at the photos of people going to the cinema in the 70s, and it's all adults. It's all like young adults, like in their, like, I don't know, the earliest you might see maybe some 17, 16-year-olds, but it's mostly like people in their 20s and 30s, like lining up, and even older. And you see them lining up and they're constantly going. It's not like the premiere. Like, these people are going like during the day, and they're like going like months after, because they didn't have like, you know, this stuff on TV or what it's DVDs or anything like that, videos. So they had to see them in the cinema, and then people would repeatedly go, and they're adults. That's what the fan base was. Like, anyway, sorry, Tans. Go on. You were talking about.
Yeah, and the thing is that whenever someone wants to deflect from criticism that has to do exactly with this particular issue about messing with the formula, messing with the core formula, which is, I think, the cardinal sin, if you like. I think that they try to say things like, it's not for you, it's for X, Y audience, which does not really make sense for many reasons, as you have already said. So, I don't know, I think that there is this effort to check boxes in reimagining fandom like products rather than create an actual viable story. And I had been thinking of a challenge, like they say, there is this erroneous, that sounds so much like Basil, take that if you include the quote-unquote SJW thematology into a fandom, that you get a crappy story. And I think that this is wrong. I think this is a disservice to two themes that are very much worth exploring. And I would like to issue a challenge of making specifically an SJW themed story that is actually good, that it is a story that is pleasurable to consume and respects the source material and respects the core formula. And when I say core formula, the core formula is to respect the stuff that made a particular story or universe popular enough to have a following and to have a fandom. If you respect those elements, then you can develop and evolve and progress the themes explored, or the stuff that you will present, the new character that you will be introducing to infinity. There will be no issue.
It does
So
exist. There's Steven Universe, for example.
I haven't seen it yet, so I
well,
don't know.
well, so this is a cartoon that's very open and accepting of different lifestyles and different sorts of people and stuff, and it's really good. There's no complaints against it. You can look at that cartoon and enjoy it and not go, oh, this is a bit heavy-handed, or this is ramming it down our throats, or whatever. It's not at all. It's fantastic in every respect. So
Yeah, but they would argue also that this is a new IP. I'm talking about very classic IPs. Like if you not just Star Wars, take He-Man for example, She-Ra, take Thundercats. What else? G.I. Joe. I don't know. All those old stuff that gets bent out of shape in order to appeal to a modern audience. You can appeal to a modern audience without disenfranchising the old audience. And I think that this is something that, for some reason, is not being considered possible. Or there is some kind of, I don't know, revenge quest against the old fans for some reason, or so yeah.
Yeah, you're right in terms of established stuff. That when you're dealing with like existing fandoms and accommodating those for things, yeah, it can be very awkward. And then I suppose for existing fans, like we are of various things, then it just takes sticking to what you enjoy and like ignoring the newer stuff, I suppose.
Yeah, totally, absolutely. I mean, getting into fan wars, I think, is completely redundant. It's not going to do anything except make everyone hate it, both the old and the new, because it becomes this battleground for 2, 3, 4, 10 sides that all become super toxic. So I don't think that this is anything worth the while. Or you could do something else, which I think that they do in Marvel, in the Marvel or the DC universe. I don't know. The superhero people do that. They go, what if? What if Superman was communist, for example, or what if everyone was gender swapped, or whatever. So if you go down the what if route, you don't ruffle feathers in the sense that someone who enjoys that can go and consume that, and the other people that would not enjoy it, it's not for them, just have their canon. The problem is when you go and you break canon so completely that people cannot safely ignore what they don't like. That's my opinion in general.
What about, you mentioned briefly the idea of toxic fandom. Rick and Morty is a fantastic show. At least the series that I've watched. I haven't watched the whole thing, but I did watch the early series. And it's really clever, it's funny, it's a cool cartoon. The guy who writes it really knows a lot about the conventions of story writing. So the stories are always very cleverly written. And they're often quite meta. But the fandom for it sort of focuses around the character of Rick, who is this guy who doesn't care about anything, and he's very negative and quite nihilistic, and so it attracts these kind of dickheadish people who just don't like him as like a comment on that kind of character, but they like him as that person, that they like that personality trait, and they think that they exhibit that personality trait in themselves, and want to sort of echo it. They go, oh yeah, this is validation for me not caring about anything and being a total asshole, because this character is a total asshole and doesn't care about anything, and he succeeds. So being a total asshole is great. And so it has a fandom specifically built around that kind of thing, which is not what the show's about. And that creates like the toxic fandom. So personally, I find... Sorry, what's that?
Please go.
I was going to say, personally, I find
No.
like I don't want to get engaged with the fandom. I like the show. I don't care about who else is fans of it. I don't give a shit.
Yeah,
I just like the show.
lately I generally avoid fandoms in general for myself. Like I avoid fandoms because it is so uncertainly, like it's always quicksand with fandoms lately. But anyway, yeah, I think especially when it comes to Rick and Morty, I haven't seen the show, but from what I have seen in analysis and stuff like that, also Rick is supposed to be like a super genius, right?
Yeah.
That transcends dimensions with his geniusness. So I do think, and this is a theory I cannot prove because you would need to do a valid psychological research on it. But my theory and my hypothesis would be that people that behave in this particularly toxic manner that stimulates Rick are simply trying to feel intelligent. Very much like, and I think that this is in the trajectory drawn from House, if you remember, House and
Yeah.
who also was a genius with a very toxic and acerbic style. And it caught on a lot. Like, oh, he is so awesome with his very rude, cruel zingers and stuff. And it reduced people's empathy a lot, I think, because they focus a lot more on how quote unquote clever something might sound and not whether it is actually clever, which it is not, and the impact that it has on the person that is on the receiving end, which is why often if these people become the receiving end, they protest very dramatically. So there's also that.
Oh yeah, very fragile kind of people, those ones. Very fragile.
Yeah, I would be thinking that, like, they just think that being a toxic anus is a thing of intelligence, which is not.
we used to have like a bunch of people in our forums on Drunkduck who were like that, and they thought, "Oh, I'm smart and I'm feeling so clever because I can pull people down and I could be Mr. Negative." Yeah. And there are a whole bunch of them, and any time that came back to them, like there were consequences or someone else like was that way to them, they just couldn't handle it at all. They were glass cannons. They were
oh my God,
fragile.
they would collapse. And they do collapse. Like I remember there was this, especially you can see that on Twitter, which is a cesspool at times, depending on where you are, in which hashtag. So what happens usually is that you have these very loudly acerbic people that are extremely judgmental. They throw out homonyms left and right, and they try to be like very witty, and they are not. But when you start turning this style of response towards them, they immediately start yelling like, "How dare you be so cruel to me?" and stuff like that. So that generally tells me that people these days are brought up being very unbalanced and probably not very taught in interpersonal relationships as they should be. So that could be sometimes the fault of series and TV, but I wouldn't go so far as to say that, oh yes, it's them movies that do it. What I would do though is that I would consider this general cultural pop culture approach of being, tough with your words, except when the words come back to you. That is to blame a lot.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I mean, we're veering away from the topic a bit, but that's fine. That's a thing
which we never do.
Never ever do. But that's the thing that happens on the internet, especially. Yeah, like, oh, I'm allowed to be mean because people of whatever. There's always a justification. It's basically you just want to be mean. It's fun to put people down. It's fun. So they justify it and say, oh, it's because you're a white, whatever, straight male or whatever, so I'm allowed to. It's just, there's always a justification for it. Like, you're just having fun. You're putting people down because you're basically an asshole. And
yeah, guys, generally, if you have fun putting people down, you should definitely get that checked out, because that is a symptom. It's not a trait. It's the same. So take that from me. Like, if that's the only thing you would ever take from me, take that. But if you do have a pleasure of bringing people down, that's a red flag, and you should definitely seek out some kind of support for that. So
it is.
Yeah.
Because it shouldn't be a fun thing. Like, you'll find that it will bleed across onto, because there's this idea of, oh, it's just online. Online, this is how this person is. It's not really. It bleeds across, because online isn't a different world. It's just a form of communication, just like talking to someone in person is communication. And it's still you doing it. So you are the common factor.
Yeah. And I would also say that it's online, communicate online is you without inhibitions. So it's perhaps a truer self of you. So if you are not as good as you are in the flesh, check that out. But no, it's not a joke. Check that out.
Seriously. Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Exactly.
I mean,
So going back to fandoms, and let's go to a bit lighter stuff and say, like, what are you a fan of in general, like in comics? What do you like?
Oh, well.
In webcomics.
I mean, like I said in the video before, without Moonlight, I'll always read the new pages of those. It's always good for those coming out. They're on a bit of a hiatus at the moment because you've got your break on this month. But I've read ahead because I'm on
my
Patreon. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
And I am not on hiatus for my patrons. My patrons will still get updates, and all the perks that I have promised are going to drop now. So hiatus is for everyone else.
That's true.
So
That's true. Yeah, I've got to check the latest patron email that I've gotten about that. Yes. So, yeah, that's the benefit of being like fans in the 21st century, 2021, whatever. We've got Patreon, which is a method you can directly support the things you're a fan of, which you couldn't always do. You can connect with the creators and the performers and things, which is what Patreon allows you to do, and other things like Coffee, I think. That's a site where you can pay, you can subscribe on YouTube and become a different sort of subscriber where you can actually pay money, sort of like Patreon, directly through YouTube. I don't know, there are a few more. There's Discord. Can you pay money on Discord?
I think that you can pay money to have access to a Discord.
Right. Yes, you can. You're correct. Yeah, private Discords. And you can connect with them directly there. You can. There's OnlyFans as well. Like that's also like a.
That's a different kind of subscription.
But it did actually start out. I mean, I know there's that sexual kind of big, huge part of it, but it was meant to have started out as a way of connecting with celebs and stuff like that, and not as a sexual thing. Yeah. So, and I think there is still that part to it, which is a significant part of it, which is just like subscribing and giving your, having that access to that celeb. So yeah, that is still a big part of it, which is interesting to read. Yeah. So yeah, there is all those kind of different ways of connecting directly with the thing and the people that you're a fan of. You like supporting like games on Kickstarter that are going to be published. You can directly support creators to produce a game, like a sequel to a game or a movie or whatever, like through Kickstarter and other things. I can't remember all of Indiegogo. That was another one.
Yeah, also that. It's a brave new world in the better sense for creators, because you can have a far more direct connection, and you can give and get support without the filter of like a big industry gatekeeping what gets made and what doesn't get made, which is really, really good. Yeah, because otherwise comics like ours probably wouldn't get the cut.
Oh yeah,
make the cut.
Well, oh God, what am I talking about? Patreon and stuff. Drunkduck, Tapas, Webtoons, Comixology, I think. I don't know, there's a lot of other sites, but Drunkduck's the best one, obviously. You can connect it directly with the creator there through the comments and stuff like this. Direct messages, which is fantastic. It's like it's built on fans. It's amazing. So yeah, how did I not think of that? That's
Well, because the point was more for like extra support. That's why we went from that avenue. But yeah, and there is also, like, for example, for me, having the Patreon. I still don't know how to pronounce it properly.
Nor do I.
But it made me be a lot more professional with making without moonlight. Because I used to be horrible about updates. And I didn't really do anything extra, but now I do make extras, and I do try to push the art to have a bit more of a oomph for my patrons. For my fans that actually do subscribe to get that stuff, and then there's I make short stories that were only in my head, and now I write them out, and now they're part of the Without Moonlight canon more officially. I mean, yeah, it's for me, it's also a more rewarding experience than it was before, where I just drop the page whenever, like once every blue moon. And yeah, that was fun.
yeah. When it's more for the fans, then it becomes more of you put more effort in, because it's not just like fans. It's the fact that you're connecting with your audience, the people you want to see. You're doing something for someone else rather than just your own thing
Yeah,
and just having people like it, which is also
exactly.
cool.
Oh, it's awesome. Like if you want to drop me comments, please do. They make my day. I don't like there is every time I get like notifications for comments, I was like, oh, okay. I want what someone said for my stuff. But especially for people that go this extra mile and they give me their hard-earned cash, whether it is just $1 or 5 or 10, I feel that I need to show my appreciation for that and give them something extra, like go the extra mile for them as well as they have for me. So I think that this is a special connection that I really appreciate and I really am happy to have it. I feel privileged for
Yeah, it is a privilege to have people responding and liking your stuff and communicating with your creation, which is a huge, huge, wonderful thing. All right, well, I think we should wrap this up the Quackcast now for the this week. Pitface had to leave early, so she's
that.
already said her goodbyes quietly.
Join, join her Patreon here. The inhabitants thing is awesome that she has going on there.
Yes, you can see that develop, which is lovely. All right, well, goodbye, people. I've been Ozone Ocean, and you have been the fantastic Tanzarine.
Bye-bye.
Okay, yeah, bye-bye. This has been QuackCast 545.